to go to Instagram and hit go live also. I just thought it would just do it on its own.
So you have to go to their website on your browser.
Create a I have to update the stream key every time and we're live right now, so whatever. But oh, no, it's not working. Fantastic.
So much for that.
Suck it, Trebek.
Dude, those are some of the best ones.
There it goes.
Those old ones.
Now we're live on Instagram, but you have to go. That's weird. It's a whole different paradigm. Phone number on the bottom of the screen, and then we'll do the music. Well, I guess I wanted to do that, didn't I?
I gotta do this, and then I gotta do that.
And what did I say I have to do? Oh yeah, the phone number. Holy cow.
Phone number at the bottom.
There it is. Okay. Let's do it.
This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, if that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
Welcome to the Okayest Hunter podcast.
Welcome.
Welcome, friends.
Hey there, pal.
What's that movie with Paul Rudd and the kids all doing the lair?
Role models.
Role models. Welcome, friend. Oh, come and slay me with your sword. Well, that sounds pretty weird. That's got to get weird.
I haven't watched. That's a great one.
It's a great movie. Minotaur.
Minotaur. Minotaur.
Look, my piss is green. Oh boy. Well, we're brought to you by Nosler. Go to nosler.com. Tell them how weird we are and use code OHP. Tell them Okayest Hunter sent you. Look, if you really want some good, high quality ammo, whether it's for whitetail or out west, trophy grade ammunition, Nosler's a great choice. And code OHP will save you 20% off, which is like a good amount. So
usually ammunition, not running a lot of sales on, but making Nosler more affordable is always a good thing because that stuff's top of the line.
Yeah, and if you're Derek, you're shooting 700 feet
or 7 feet.
Whatever.
It works on both.
We talked about that last week.
Yep.
Holy cow. Also, other partners, Latitude. I just got to hang out with those guys at ATA. Their booth was really a large booth. Exciting. They had a lot of new products to showcase. The Method 3 is coming out. They have the prototypes there. Really exciting to see that because the Method 2 has been my favorite saddle from them since they've started. I know there's other ones too, but like I just love the 2 panels. So they've done some things that I think make a lot of sense when you're using it. And yeah, I'll get into more of that later. But code OHP at Latitude saves you some money. Spartan Forge, check those guys out. They just added a new feature, so make sure if you're already using it, go to the App Store, update. If you don't have Spartan Forge and you want to use our discount code, you got to go to their website and buy it there first with the discount code for 20%
not through the
off.
app.
Then when you go to the app and log in, you'll have the 20% kick in, and it's off your annual subscription. So,
I will say this past year, I have had more people privately message and ask about Spartan Forge and say like, hey, you know, like,
what do you think about this?
Is it worth it? I've had Onyx forever. Yeah. And I usually just send like 2 or 3 screenshots of like the LiDAR side to side with the contour map. And I'm like, and they're like, okay, yep, I'm getting it.
Well, the newest layer is it shows you where the sun hits.
Yeah, the slope, which is like kind of like slope angle. Like
Yeah.
It shows you where, from which direction you see all those like super steep hillsides.
Which you think would be obvious, but when you see things, then it's like, oh, well, of course that should have been obvious. But now that I see it, now I can visualize it differently and make different moves.
And if you're a visual learner, you're a nerd with maps like I am.
Yeah.
It's if you use 4 or 5 different mapping tools to give you a picture, definitely check out Spartan Forge. They're the best.
They have the feature I say on the TV screen, but like you can go to the web app or like their website on the computer, logged in, and you can have the same spot pulled up with 2 different layers side by side.
Yep.
So it's almost like an extended display, but you could do the LiDAR on one half of the screen and like the leaf on or leaf off on the other, the UAV. Like, it's pretty cool to be able to do that. Otherwise, you have to like go back and forth and toggle and remember. And the fact that they give you the ability to do the side by side
Badass.
is just unique. I don't know if Onyx does that or not. I don't think they do.
It does not.
So I just think Spartan Forge is very nimble It's a small team. They can move pretty quick with their development stuff. Onyx, big gears turn slow. They'll probably get there. They have a lot of money. They're not. They're like, I think Spartan Forge is like the able contender or challenger of Onyx, but Onyx is like the 10,000-pound gorilla. They're like, oh, we'll get there.
But like you said, like we're not trying to go off here, but
Yeah.
like just look at the team that Bill has assembled
Yeah.
around Spartan Forge. Like that is a deadly efficient team who's using this to
And he's
become
getting
more
feedback
deadly
from
and
them.
efficient.
Yeah, they're
It's
like,
badass.
Hey, Bill, can you show us where the sun hits? We'd love to see that. And then he's like, yeah, I'll figure that out. And then
And then 2 days later, he's like, all right, beta version's out. Give that a try.
it's wild. So anyway, there's that. And then Rack Hub, they're a partner of ours. You can see the antler behind Derek right there. That's the R1. They also make an R2. They also have a lot of different, like, they're also bringing a lot more onto their website. There's more coming. I'm not going to talk about that until it launches, but just know that if you're trying to put anything that's related to a deer or antlers on the wall, you want to go check out Rack Hub. So like Kodo HP will save you, I think, 15% off, and shed season's right around the corner. If you find a deadhead, you find sheds. Rack Hub is like the best thing. It's also good for taxidermy too. You could put they have stuff for taxidermists. So we had a taxidermist
Removable antler mounts.
Yes. So you can spin it, turn it, adjust it, whatever, and take them out. So if you're traveling, you don't want to ding things up. But I had a taxidermist last year be like, I said something about like, hey, Rack Hub's a really affordable way for taxidermy. Like in contrast, you don't want to pay an $800 bill or whatever. He's like, well, that's not really fair, man. You're like, we work hard. And I was like, I wasn't coming at taxidermy. This is just something additional you can do if you don't have a whole lot of money, a way to hang and mount your memories.
For sure.
So just
more
another thing.
options.
Yep. I think I got everybody then. Feedback from the listeners, guys. We do these ad call outs in the beginning of the episode. I'm sure we could do a better job of like baking them in. And we do. We also give our partners like their own episodes throughout the year. We've been partners with these brands for a long time. Bear, you can see on the wall here, the Bear sign, the Bear bow. I got to swap this bow out with the flagship from last year, the Persist, which looks great in Fred Bear camo. That's one I wrote Never Pass on.
That is a cool camo.
That was, yeah, it looks
It's like
great.
the old school woodland.
I don't know why you wouldn't do that camo on that bow. Like, I think this is fine. It's actually a bit shiny. So, like, the camo I think I prefer.
Take a little sandpaper, rough that up. I'm sure they'd love that. Let's take that finish off real quick.
I had kept this bow for a backup. I didn't need it, and I did kill with so I did feed the bear this year. Actually, I'm pretty proud of that.
You did. Made a damn good shot close range.
Yeah. Well, it's a little far back, but it killed him, so it worked out.
That video's cool.
Yeah. I didn't do meh loud enough, which I've been known to. That's what happened to that deer. I didn't stop him. I didn't stop the other one. And then we've talked about, do you stop them? Do you not? When they're at a pace like that, I probably should just accounted for the
aim a little front.
Yeah, it just didn't occur to me. I thought he was going to stop. I was like, meh.
But now you know.
No, but I thought I knew, but I didn't.
We always think we
In
know.
the moment, I didn't.
We don't know
I didn't
shit.
do what I was supposed to. Yeah. So we have a couple callers in the queue already.
Oh wow.
Let's,
good.
Bring one on. We got Taylor, you're live on the OK Center podcast. 1 second while I get the volume adjusted. Can you hear us okay? You can. And we can hear you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
There you are.
Yeah, we got you, Taylor. How's it going?
Hey, man, what's up? It's me and Jeremy and Matt. We're all in the car coming home from South Texas.
What were you guys doing there? Hogs or something? Hunting hogs or what?
No, it was actually, we were there for a deer capture for a research project. And anyways, it was kind of a cool deal. We got to help, what would you call that, Matt? A helicopter deer capture?
Oh, yeah.
So they had a helicopter crew there capturing deer. And they had some cowboys on four-wheelers that were hog tying them and bringing them to one central location where we could take data and release them.
Wow.
What was so before? Let's just hold on. Tell everybody who you are, who you're with. I know who you are, who you're with, but tell the audience, because this episode is going to be a little bit of shameless plugs of the network. So you're on the network. Which one do you got?
Sure. Yeah. Shameless plug. My name's Taylor McMurtry. Jeremy and Matt, you guys want to plug yourselves there? Hey, it's y'all, everybody. Okay. Well, yeah. So Matt Brock and Jeremy Ferguson, we're all with the Southern U podcast. we're on the OKS Podcast Network, of course, and we just we talk all things land related in the Southeast. So we talk real estate and ag and hunting, just recreational products, or recreational property, that sort of stuff. So basically anything that's related to land in the Southeast, that's kind of our thing.
Rock on. So what was the study then?
Yeah, the study was comparing the effects of a deer being fed cottonseed versus protein feed. There were, I believe, 4 different enclosures that were all 200 acres each. And in one enclosure, I think treatment 1 was straight protein feed. The second was straight cottonseed. And then the third was a mixture of both. And then the 4th pen had, it was a control group. So basically it would simulate a hunting season. Basically, they wouldn't seed cotton or protein during the kind of like hunting months, I guess. And they're kind of trying to take blood samples. What all were they taking? Fecal,
yeah, they were
blood.
doing fecal studies. Blood samples were for pregnancy positives or negatives. Just basic, DNA, basic body condition, Pat.
Oh yeah, COVID too. There was there from COVID.
Really?
Was there, I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty.
did you guys analyze the results already, or is that to come? And like, do you think there's gonna be big differences? But like, why is that the thing to use as why cotton seed or versus protein seed? Like, what are we trying to figure out?
Yeah.
Cottonseed, and this is Jeremy, by the way. Cottonseed is very high protein. It's obviously a kind of a byproduct of gin and cotton. On average, it's pretty doggone cheap. You can buy it in bulk. So you've got a lot of agriculture folks, be it in the cattle industry and in the deer industry, that feed cottonseed. And there's some belief that it's better than protein feed. But that's what all this is meant to find out. It'll be a multi-year project. I would expect probably 4 to 6 years.
Yeah,
very likely. Yeah, it's a 5-year project, so I think it'll be probably 6 years before any of the results are published or released.
Yeah.
We just got in the ground level. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the very first capture. So
yeah, we put our hands on 126 deer yesterday.
Wow.
Wow. Are you guys shooting a net out of that helicopter, or how is it that you're capturing them?
we aren't, but a helicopter crew that is extremely trained is
Very.
very. So we actually did a podcast with the lead biologist there for this project, and we're going to put an episode out dedicated to that and kind of let him go in detail on what they're doing, why they're doing it. And there were some initial results that we were able to see that were obvious, but we won't know a ton, for, like I said, for years. But so far it looked like the one that had the enclosure that had a stimulated hunting season where the feed was turned off for those hunting months seemed to have far less body weight, lower body weight than ones that had feed year round, and which that's kind of to be expected, right? But they tested a lot of different stuff. Used ultrasound to test for the amount of rump fat on deer,
Really?
test body condition. So it's pretty cool. I think there was over 120. I think 126 that were collected yesterday. It's pretty wild.
That's really cool. And I suppose with the ultrasound, they can actually measure the thickness of the layer of fat around the rump. So what a great comparison. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Yep, that's it.
So this is the Southern U podcast. If anyone wants to hear about things like this that are coming from real authorities on this subject matter, like wildlife biology, habitat, land management, go check this podcast out.
And if you didn't believe that there's still cowboys in the South, there's helicopter cowboys on the Southern U podcast. Check it out, guys. That's awesome. It's really cool that you guys got to take part in the study, and hopefully maybe that's something you guys can do year in and year out and kind of track along with the biologists there. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. It was really cool to get to be a part of it. It's something that I mean, we've all handled deer before, but not anything to this scale. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it feels like if you guys did an episode with the MSU Deer Lab, that'd be really cool. It feels like what you just did is kind of in that realm a little bit more, like a deer study.
For sure.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'm glad you guys.
These guys here, Matt.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Basically, what?
Yeah, we've been to most every deer study group meeting over the last 15 to 20 years. Yeah, I sat down yesterday and thought about it. And this year will be my 23rd year
Wow.
going to the group meetings.
Lots to learn. You guys do a better job than we do. We just sit down and drink bourbon and bullshit. So, you guys actually have some real meat on the bone.
There's science. There's sciencing and learning and helping and conservation, and we're sipping bourbon, talking stupid. Well done, boys.
No, it's cool. And you guys have YouTube, and you're obviously on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You do a good job putting the content out. You guys manage your own stuff. Fortunately, I don't have to produce your show. That's what Taylor's for, and that's really nice that he's there.
Does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Amen to that. If Taylor wasn't here, this show wouldn't exist. I can assure you that.
Yeah.
Hey, we got some pretty cool hunting content from this too. We made sure to bring the bows with us, and so we were able to chase around a few havertide, pigs, does, and stuff like that. So we'll be putting that out too.
Everybody but Jeremy's on there killing anything.
Oh,
Shots fired.
oh.
Shots fired.
I'm sure you won't hear about that at all on the long drive home.
Yeah, long drive. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, man, look, the deer capture thing is a bucket list for me. So that was my whole purpose for being there. Taylor'd never been to South Texas. Matt's been with me a handful of times, but I was there for that. Enjoyed getting to see them do a little bit of hunting. We're going to have some pretty neat footage of some quail hunts too, with some bobwhite and scale quail. So
Awesome, man.
Heck yeah, fellas. Well, yeah, if you're looking for the Southern View Podcast on Network, it's the one with the flames and like the fire, the controlled burn in the background. Although you guys did just update your logo, so that's pretty cool too. And be sure to follow along on Instagram, on YouTube. Go subscribe to the podcast. We have 2 more of our network hosts in the call queue. So Taylor, I'll let you guys go. I'm glad you called. This is exactly what I wanted, like a 5-minute quick, like go check out Southern U. And here we are. So we'll keep rolling, see if we can get everyone else to jump in.
Drive safe, gentlemen, and thanks for your contributions to the study and the ever changing world of the whitetail. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
yep.
That's awesome.
How cool is that?
That's wild. Like, I mean, that's like some real shit.
That's so cool. I mean, just to see how the biologists are working and doing the studies, like
The fact that there are studies being done and that there's people that pay attention.
I like to listen to them,
Yeah.
like when they come out to MSU or like all these different ones. I like to listen to them, but getting hands-on and seeing, what they're doing would be just a really fun experience.
So you guys haven't heard of this podcast, well, at least not from context with our network, but the Wild Strength Podcast is one of our newest additions. We're working on getting our cover art redone right now. It's in the designer's hands. Our cover art is painted with digital watercolor, but it is real artwork and it takes time. It's one of the more lengthier parts of our joining our network. But Whitney, you're live on the OKS Hunter podcast. I'm glad you called in. How have you been?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thank you, sir. I probably didn't give you much of a warning. I don't know what it does when I like bring you in officially. If it tells you like they've brought you in, like here you are.
You're on. Go. Hi, Whitney. I'm Derek.
I kind of got the sound. It was like, beep, it's your turn.
Oh, okay. It did do so. Okay, that's good to know. I don't know what it sounds like as a caller, other than it's like pretty robotic. Like I could get a human a human call attendant.
I think you should make it more robotic, just to really keep people guessing.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever called into anything too, so I feel like it's very, like old school when you'd be listening to the radio and people are calling into the radio trying to like win something. That's almost honestly what it felt like.
Like, am I gonna
Sorry.
get picked? Are they gonna
You
really
are
bring me
not
on?
caller 9. Rejected.
We should do a caller number.
Caller 9.
We wouldn't get to 9. We'd be like, well, we
We'll have
never
to do-
got there.
We'll have to do caller number 3.
Well,
Yeah,
so
that's what it feels like. But you guys doing?
we're good. We were just talking about what are we going to talk about tonight. I was like, we should take a break from deer hunting because, like, you should. That's all we ever talk about and think about here. And I was like, sometimes it's good to take a break from things because I thought about the break I
Mhm.
had from work. I had 2 weeks off from the holiday vacation, and it felt so good to just stop thinking about work. And I'm like, God, it kind of feels good to stop thinking about deer hunting at the end of the season. Like your mind can finally it's like a pit bull that grips onto something. You can hold on so tight, but eventually your jaw bones need a break. So next time you go grip something, it'll be tight again.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah, stuff like that. I don't know. So then I was like, Derek and I were talking. I was like, why don't we see if all the other, I think it was your idea, all the other podcasters want to call in.
Yeah, we're just going to talk about what we kind of do to, outside of our deer revolving life. And we were like, hey, there's so many other things besides that. And our podcast network is a great example of that. All the different things we do, outdoors or indoors, whatever. So here you are.
Yeah. So tell us about the Wild Strength podcast and maybe yourself and what listeners can expect. They can go get the podcast whenever. It's a live show. You're one of the first ones we've migrated over. So
Yeah, it's been super fun. I've been doing the Wild Strength podcast for about a year now. I don't know if you guys said my name when I started. My name is Whitney. I've been doing the Wild Strength podcast for about a year now, and super excited to be a part of the OKS Hunter Network. I actually got connected with you guys through Zach Hansen, which folks might be familiar with the OKS Trapper podcast. And speaking of just doing other things, trapping is something that I've been wanting to get into. So that was initially how I met Zach. So that was super cool to make that connection and then meet you guys. But the Wild Strength podcast is kind of a combination of, so my background is as a strength and conditioning coach, and I guess in parentheses, like human performance practitioner. And I've worked mostly with military, and kind of tying that with my passion for the outdoors and hunting. I am an adult onset hunter, so I've only been hunting for about 3 or 4 years now. But I am from Texas, so I was actually listening to them talk about that deer study in Texas right before I came on, and that was super interesting. But came out west, came out to Colorado, and kind of quickly realized the way I would train for maybe like a backcountry hunt was very similar to the way I would train someone who's going into a burning building or someone who's going maybe on a combat deployment or something like that. So I was like, I could really have something here where I'm tying these two things together, and had a podcast in the back of my mind for a while. But also I feel like I just meet so many cool, I'm a social butterfly. Like I will talk your head off if I'm ever around you in person. And I just feel like I meet so many cool people that I leave the conversation thinking like, I wish I recorded that. So selfishly, I did it for me. So that I could go back to like conversations and like ask all these cool questions and kind of refer back to them. And if people want to listen to those, even better. And I just always say like, if one person learns something from each episode, that's kind of the goal. But yeah, that's kind of the Wild Strength podcast in a nutshell. My kind of catchphrase is all things wild, all things strength, and everything in between.
That's awesome. Welcome to the network, by the way.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. Sorry, I'm so slow with everything. Like people talk, I'm like,
Totally
I hope there's no like
I'm
rush.
no rush whatsoever.
Yeah,
I feel like the cover art thing is a little bit of like earning your stripes. Like, not that we want it to be that way, but it always is that way, right? Like that's the thing that takes a while to get. So it's like, we gotta wait. So just consider it, your warm up, you're earning your stripes, even though that's not how we really planned it.
it's just how it goes. Although I did on this last go around with Jared Gomez, which it's not Gomez. I learned that yesterday when I misrecorded his intro. He's like, fun fact, 99% good at that, except you pronounced my last name wrong. Well, of course I did. That's what I do. But the audio intro for him, I finally got around to getting done, and I had Sam help with that.
Excellent. He's good at that.
And yeah, so yeah, it is a process to join the network. And so it's kind of like, well, if you can deal with all of the processes that involve going into joining, then you're a total fit, because the network itself is, it's a good group of folks. The fact that you mentioned Zach, I don't know if he'll be able to call in or not. I know he's got little ones, and I don't know, he may or may not be running a trap line right now. I'm not sure what goes on in Idaho, but he's a pretty fit dude and follows a pretty strict regiment and a routine. Obviously you do too. And I was actually talking to Derek about that before we started recording. I'm trying to figure out, I get up at 5-ish and I do a lot of work before work on this business. And then I get my kids on the bus, then I go to work. Then when I get home, it's like kids, dinner, bedtime, pass out probably, or maybe stay up late and do this stuff, the podcast, and then do it all over again next day. So I'm like, I need to get up at 4 a.m. if I'm going to try to work out before I go to my job to go to my other job. And I'm like getting frustrated that I can't figure it out, because in the summer months I run, but in winter it sucks. It's cold, dark, it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's hard. You leave it, it's dark outside. You come home and it's dark outside, and running is definitely not enjoyable and cold and dark.
Yeah, like people don't salt their sidewalks.
The ice, man.
I don't know. It freaks me out. Like I feel like I could totally bust my shit. And then the cold, it's totally different than if you're stranded out on a freezing cold day versus like a nice summer day.
And Whitney can chime in on this, because that's something that we've kind of all been, hey, what do we do to stay a little bit, in shape or fit? And the other day I picked up an old golden Schwinn Aerodyne fan bike on a recommendation of our good buddy Lyndon Lauren, who's a health fitness. That guy's a beast in the mountains. When we were in Oregon, he was just flying ahead of us. I feel like he was just waiting for us 98% of the time. He's like, dude, all you really need is a fan bike if you just want to be like in shape cardiovascularly. So I saw it on Marketplace. I was like, Lyndon said, these are good. Give me it.
The fact that you did it is great.
Nice.
So how would
Yeah,
you
I
train
honestly-
for
I
a
think
burning
most
building?
people haven't-
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
What was that?
I was just going to say your point about like I would train for hunting out west like I would for going into a burning building or going on deployment. So that's a really interesting way to think about it. I'm curious what you're going to say. Sorry.
For sure, yeah. And I think most people, and you hear that and it sounds like you'd be doing something extravagant. And I think most people think of training and going to the gym and all of these things as like, you kind of, excuse my language, you kind of have to be kicking your shit in, which is not the case. Like, if you want to be sustainable, if you want to get like good results over the long term, like doing the simple things work, and doing the simple things well work. So like you said, you like to run, like maintaining some sort of like aerobic capacity through running, walking, rucking, cycling, swimming, insert whatever word. It doesn't have to be running. It is always just kind of a good to have as a base, and you don't have to go and lift max weights all the time. If that's something that you like to do, though, like it'll work. And it's also something that you can incorporate in. And then I think also people think you have to be in the gym for an hour, 2 hours every single day to see consistent results. And that's not necessarily the case either. If you have 20 minutes in your day, like 20 minutes over time, each day is going to compound, and you're going to start to see results versus not spending those 20 minutes just scrolling on Instagram instead. So I just always try to preach, like, do something that's meaningful and something that's intentional. And then when I think of, like, kind of when I say you would train a hunter, maybe the same way you would train someone who's going into a burning building, I like to look at what I call like training qualities. So that would be like aerobic capacity, like is your cardiovascular system fit? We need some bit of strength to be able to carry a pack. We need kind of strength and endurance combined, because maybe we're dragging a deer for a mile back to the truck, or maybe we're packing out
My lungs were
an
hurting
elk
just
for a
listening to
couple
her
of
say
miles.
that.
So we need to.
My lungs were burning when you
Yeah,
said
so
drag a
maybe we
deer.
need to have
That's called muscle memory, Derek.
so strength and endurance at the same time. So just a lot of the qualities are going to be very similar. It might not necessarily be the same exact workout that I would give the two people. And all that's going to depend on time and resources you have available, what kind of equipment do you have. But at the end of the day, the qualities are going to be the same. And it's always up to the person. If I'm writing a program for someone, you're not going to stick to something that you don't like. So what good does that do me to write? So I would just say, like, stick to the things you like to do, stick to the things that you can be intentional with.
Maybe eating
And then, yeah,
Oreos.
as far as hunting goes, include some sort of cardiovascular component and some sort of strength component as well.
Good to go. Do you follow by chance Jordan Syatt with Syatt Fitness? Have you heard of him?
I feel like I've heard that name before.
He swears a lot, but he was Gary
So
Vaynerchuk's
maybe?
personal trainer for like several years, and then he's obviously, got his own gym. But it sounds like there's some similarities there. There's probably a lot of differences too, but his whole thing is like, don't follow this guru or that guru. Don't listen to this one thing or that one thing. Like, think more holistically and like just do the things that you can keep doing all the time. Like, if you can go for a walk, go for a fucking walk. Drink water. Stand up and stretch. Like, real basic stuff. But the dude was also like a bodybuilder and like knows all of the things that you probably know. But if you don't follow him, check him out. He was on our podcast a while back because he had like 1 million followers and he lost 200,000 of them because he went hunting and talked about it. And he's not from the hunting world.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So then he lost like a quarter of his followers just by simply going deer hunting once. So we talked about it and it was really an interesting conversation.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it's actually like just doing the simple things and doing the simple things well. And I think everyone wants to overcomplicate things. You bring up like fitness and social media. Like, if you go to my Instagram, you can't tell what I do for work, and you can barely even tell through my podcast unless if you just listen closely, and maybe sometimes I'll talk about it because I just hate the social media is always showing what's like flashy, and that's not even just with fitness, right? Like, that's with all things.
Yeah,
you're right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for you or that it's right or that, like, I don't know, if you look at the flashy things in hunting, that doesn't mean that it was ethical.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, if you can just, what I say, like, I'm aggressively average and like just do the simple things so stupidly well.
Can you make a shirt
and
for
you
yourself that says
surprisingly
aggressively
will
average?
get the best support from that.
I feel
What
like
was that?
that's a shirt that you need to put on. Like, you need to put aggressively average on your shirt.
That's an OKS Hunter Network shirt right there.
The whole network's
I mean,
aggressively
that's
average.
very fitting for the OKS Hunter for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's good stuff. Well, so it's Wild Strength Podcast. You're on Spotify, Apple. You're under our network umbrella. I believe I did everything correct. I might need to go double back on that. Soon your cover art will be done and you'll obviously see it first and hopefully approve it and all that stuff. But, anybody can go listen to it now. And you have new episodes that'll be coming out on a regular basis here come the end of the month, I suspect.
Yes, sir, I will. I've got a couple recorded already that it's been nice just to kind of take January and just sit back.
Yeah.
But as soon as the end of the month comes here, I'll be rocking and rolling, and I put them out every other Friday.
Heck
That's fine.
yeah.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Welcome to the shit show, Whitney.
That's what I was going to say.
Love it. I feel at home.
Yeah, we don't fuck around, but we fuck around. Oh, good stuff. Well, we got another host in the call queue.
And
So
I'll let you guys hop on to the next one.
yeah, thanks for calling, Whitney. Have a good night.
Yep, have a good one. Bye.
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 So we got Mr. Chris Wansettler with the OKest Cook. You are live on the show. Chris, have you called into the show before? I don't even know.
Howdy.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Did it give you a beep to tell you you're officially live? I'm trying to figure this out.
Yes, sir, it did.
You are not
Yeah.
caller 9. You did not win. I'm so sorry. You lost. You're talking to us.
I thought for sure.
Well, thanks for stepping away from the family to make time to call in. That's pretty impressive that you're able to do that. I don't know how you're doing it, but you're
Oh,
doing
good.
it.
Oh, good. You might hear them. You might hear them in the background. They're a bit rambunctious right now.
Yeah, mine are too, but they're not here. So out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, so we just got to hang out in Indy. You and I were at ATA together. I'm at SHOT next week. To some degree, like you're there on your own, but
draws.
yeah, we got to meet up, and then you got to show me one of your favorite spots in town for a bakery, and we sat down and got to eat a whole bunch of pastries.
Yes, Amelia's is so good.
It was It was actually
The
really hard
episode
to
is live.
describe.
You have to go listen to it.
Yeah, I saw that. I was telling people they're asking about it. I was like, it was really hard to describe what words to use about how food tastes in my mouth. I didn't know what to say. I was like, I give you props to figuring that out. It's tricky. But can you real quick say, Chris Wansweiler with the OK is Cooked. There's a few of you that co-host all that. Why don't you take the floor and talk about OK is Cooked and your vision behind it and kind of where it all stemmed from?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a vision behind it necessarily outside
Perfect.
of just educating ourselves. It's me and 3 buddies. We love to eat. We like cooking, and we're not that good at it. So basically the podcast is our journey into learning where better food comes from. So, via hunting, gardening, farmers markets, just getting better food into our systems so we can perform better. Like when you're saying, like our bodies are these machines and we need them to operate. So better food will help you work better. It's just the podcast is our journey behind that process. So we're talking with people who actually know what they're doing and trying to pick up a couple little tidbits of information that improve our kitchen experiences.
And you do your show a bit different because you happen to have enough commercial grade camera equipment to take on site. So you've done a few on location, like you kind of like build your set every time, versus a lot of shows.
We sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The Amelia's episode was a little chaotic in the background. It was a live bakery, so there were customers running in and out and kind of dealing with some of that. But, we like that. It's different, it's authentic, and I like to showcase where we are as well as talk about what we're doing. I think being a photographer visually, it's more interesting.
Yeah.
So, I like to see what's going on.
When Chris says he's, being a photographer, Chris is a really, really talented commercial photographer who's like really, really visually inclined. So if you're a person who enjoys a good video along with the podcast, please watch all of the OK is Cooked stuff and don't watch any of our stuff because Chris kills it. Mr. Professional is what I call Chris.
He's so professional
because you're so good at it, dude. You're so good at it.
He came to Foam Fest and did.
Let me follow that up with I'm a good photographer, but I'm just dabbling in video. So don't critique the video too hard.
You dabble well. You dabble well.
You're dabbling
I do try.
It's a bit better than most because your equipment is such professional grade that even your dabbling is still better than what most would do.
What Eric is saying, Chris, is you have no skill, but you got a good camera.
Look, I'm running. These are all the camera you're seeing us on right now. That's a Sony A6. Okay, you understand that, Chris, probably. This camera here that you're seeing me on now is a Sony EVZ. What is it called? It's like a weird, I don't know what it's called. EVZ 10 or I don't know. It's an even shittier
not
version
what Chris is using
than the A6. And then this one up here is a GoPro. Like, these are very affordable DSLRs. They're not expensive. They're fine. And I think for what we do with these, running a live broadcast podcast, it's fine. What you're running is they have some weight to them. The lenses probably cost more than the body of the camera.
There's a good quote out there that says, the very best camera you could ever possibly own is the one in your pocket. It's the one you have.
True.
So
that's true.
You got it, use it. Yep. You don't need anything better.
No, but anyway, we all suck at taking compliments on our network. That's how I know you're a good fit for the network. Because you're just humble and you're not, coming at everything with a big ego and going, yeah, I know. I am the best. That would be a totally awkward thing to run into right now. So, but you do take it serious and you're very professional. But the audio is like creamy, milky, smooth. Your audio, the way you guys, you coached up the owner of Amalia's. You're like, hey, I want you to you're kissing the mic. You got to get your lips right up to that mic. Like you're telling him, you better get we do that in here. I'm like, get the mouthpiece right there. That's why we did the headsets here because Greg Tubbs would never get his lips to the mic.
Sorry, I had to do it.
I can give
That's
Greg
me.
a lot of shit. He would never. My dad would always be like, "I can never hear Greg." I'm like, "Yeah, because he doesn't talk into the mic. He'll like lean back." I'm like, "Bro, the mic." And so I finally got headsets. My dad's like, "Oh, I can hear Greg now." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." My dad's my best critic of this show. He'll tell me if like the
definitely a
audio's
learning
off.
curve for sure.
Yeah. No, but you guys got a great logo, which you developed with your team over there. Like, I didn't have any say in that. You just did it. And I was like, yeah, the bent fork, perfect. It's like synonymous with our fork horn antler.
And what Eric and I were talking about a little bit, like
Yeah.
what we're going to do with this episode tonight. And I think what's so great
Yeah.
about having a network now is like, so our deer stuff is ramping down. Like seasons are closing, you know. And what do you do with your off time when you're a hunter? Why not learn new ways, better ways, more efficient ways, more tastier, you know, delicious ways to prepare what you just worked so hard for? And that's where like having our network and shows like yours, all of a sudden it's like, dang, like I do want to try something new this season. And that's where you guys are bringing in a whole new batch of ideas for what we can do with our time in the off season.
That's our goal. Yeah. Just get out of the kitchen rut. You know, we all have our favorites. We all have the stuff we like. We know we like it, so it's the go-to. But there's so much out there, just an infinite amount of food that's just mind-blowing. If you just take a risk and just try something different, it is unbelievable what you can do, like in your own kitchen. Like it doesn't take that much skill to do a lot of these things. You just got to try it.
Yeah, the risk
And
in the
it's so
kitchen's got to
rewarding.
be way less risk than in the deer woods. I mean, there might still be injuries. I don't know. My buddy Clayton burned his forehead at deer camp 2 years ago on the oven. I don't know. how
Flying
that
hot
even
dog
happens.
or-
Like, I don't know. I was trying to get a pizza out of the oven. I'm like, how the fuck did you burn your forehead? Like, I don't know what happens. It was a pretty funny moment.
There's still some danger, so it's an exciting challenge.
Yeah.
But
But
risk free, like you say.
I like what you said about the kitchen rut, like getting out. Let's talk about going from the whitetail rut to the kitchen.
There's no
rut.
scrapes and rubs, Eric.
Yeah, though there might be. I don't know. You got to scrape a lot of cheese and rub a lot
Yeah,
of.
there are.
Ooh,
You know,
dry rub.
there you go. Yeah, get some dry rub. Yeah.
Okay, the puns are done. I'm sorry.
I like the puns. Food puns are the best puns. They make you hungry. No, and I don't know. So certainly your guys' open-minded approach to things. Like my biggest takeaway from the episode I got to guest on last week was taking any seasoning and making tea out of it. So you can taste that seasoning and then identify it in foods. I'd never heard that before. It's very interesting. I can't believe people do that, but it makes sense. And I wouldn't have been able to distinguish the ginger in that muffin had I not have had ginger root. As we talked about taking shots of ginger root, which if you're sick is a really great way to like flush your system out. And I was like, that's ginger. I knew it was fresh. That's ginger. I knew it because I've had it. Everything else, I had no idea there are half the seasonings in these foods.
Well, yeah, kind of based on your comment there, like everyone's food experiences is different. Everybody's food memories are different. So how do you explain the flavors going on inside your mouth while you're tasting this food item? And yeah, a great way to do that is just to break apart all these different components. You know, if you've put bay leaf in your stew, you don't know what it actually does. Yeah, just brew some bay leaf tea, and hey, there's the flavor of bay. So by identifying all these individual components, like eventually, I'm not good at this, and this is what I'm working on myself. Eventually, you'll have this catalog in your brain of, hey, like this is what this tastes like. Here's what that tastes like, and you can start picking it apart. And A, it's great to explain things to somebody who's never tried it, but B, it's also phenomenal to reverse engineer things. So you go out to these restaurants and you taste something cool. All of a sudden, with this catalog, you can now like start to rebuild that in your own way in your own kitchen.
Yeah,
So,
this sounds like how Derek breaks down
fun
hunting big
stuff that
bucks.
I'm learning too, and I'm trying to get better at.
Well, yeah, and it's helpful that, you know, for middle-aged guys who don't have the best memory, that your scent, you know, the sense of smell is linked to your memory stronger than any other sense. So the tea part, like
Oh my
I
gosh,
can
yeah.
imagine that would just stay with you, you know, for
A while.
you
Yeah.
know, you smell something good or bad, you remember that.
No, like cat
every
poop down
time.
here.
So I think that's, you know, a nice
Yeah,
little
yeah.
convenient add-on.
Yeah, it's cool.
Not the cat poop is the convenience.
So we have another one of the hosts in line after you here, so we'll keep her moving. But before I let you go, I want you to define and describe the word commensality, because when you first shared that word for me, I
Commensality.
chuckled because I thought you said common sensality.
Which I'm also a fan of.
I'm like, yeah, I love common sensality. That's fucking perfect. And then you're like, no, commensality. It means something very specific to what your show stands for.
Yes, it is. Yeah, commensality is simply just the act of eating together. And it's a word that I knew the definition before I knew the word. So I knew I wanted a word that meant eating together. And so I just basically Googled what's a word that means this. And I got commensality. And yeah, so we've kind of taken that word and broadened it to, yes, you like practicing commensality, like physically every night you eat together with somebody at the same table. But like even just sharing a recipe, like in my mind, like through space and time, I'm sharing this meal, practicing commensality with whoever wrote that recipe. It wasn't written for me, but like we're still like sharing this meal together. And to me, it's a special way to kind of, honor the people that, came before us, family members with distant recipes, or even just, a book from whatever cook you happen to like.
Yeah, if you have a note card from your grandma
it's a word
with a recipe on it, like you're sharing commensality. I think,
yeah,
or maybe it's from your great grandma.
Absolutely, yeah. Just you're connecting, and yes, it can be an emotional experience if you allow it. And yeah, it's really, food is just special.
Well, and I'll take it one step further, because our connection with nature through hunting and like taking a life and harvesting an animal, hunting and sharing that food around a tailgate or on a dinner table or a grill, and that you take so much different care in the food that you've killed, because you respect it and you don't want to do it any sort of injustice, or like you don't want to have it be in vain. Like you really want to make sure you take good care of that meat from the time you gut it, drag it, process it, cook it, all that stuff. And then hopefully you're sharing that meal with the people you love, whether or not, like when we had the 2 years ago, the Okayest Hunter show, and we ended the season by cooking all the meat, you guys, because it wasn't me that season. Maybe it was. My meat tasted like gut. But so maybe I didn't take the best care. I thought the river did the job, but it didn't. Anyway, that was really fun. That was commensality, and I didn't even know it. I didn't know that there's a word for that. So I think
that's become one of my favorite parts of the entire process, is getting the vacuum sealer out and the cutting boards and the meat grinder, and having my kids do the work with me, like of the thing that we harvested, and now we are taking care of this. We're turning it into food that we all are going to eat together, and to see them just be part of it, whether they want to do it at the time or they don't. It's just like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Like this is part of what we do. And it's like our tradition. You can't pick your family, but you can pick your family traditions. And I think that's become one of my absolute favorite parts.
That's cool. Well, Chris, I appreciate the call. And folks, if you want to go follow Okayest Cook, they do have a great YouTube, great social on Instagram, I believe Facebook and LinkedIn. And obviously you can find them on the Okayest Podcast Network, whether you're listening to Spotify or Apple. You should be able to find the other shows on our network really easily, as well as our website. We'll have them.
Yes, sir.
Cool, man.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
I almost just dropped ourselves off of the call, which would have made it really hard to take any other calls. We have Matt Strime with Okayest Fisher, and then we have another one after him. So, Matt,
what's up, buddy?
You are live. Hopefully you heard the beep. Beep. You're live. How's it going?
I did.
I want to hear this beep.
Pretty
What's
good.
it
How are you
sound
guys
like? Can
doing?
someone tell me?
Oh, we're doing good, buddy. Been a while. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Did I make the cut? I actually made it here in time?
Yeah, you're not caller 9 though. Sorry, you don't win a prize.
Oh, son of a gun.
The prize is you can help us at a trade show. Yay, another hotel room full of farts.
So, Matt, it's your season. It's hard water season. You been out on the ice yet, buddy?
I made a couple of tip-up runs at the lake house, but I did officially make a step in the progress. I took the deer hauler out of the back of my truck, and the ice deer is going in. So
there we go.
That's where it'll stay until open water.
There we go.
Fantastic. Those ice sleds
It's
are
been
really
crazy hectic. Oh, what's it?
I was just saying those ice fishing sleds come in handy all year round.
They do, unless you have like a flip-up shack and a seat in it, then it's kind of not the best thing in the world. But the regular, just the sleds are great.
Yeah. You got one of those ones with the fancy chairs in them. Those are very nice. Yeah, you have your jamboree coming up soon. Well, real quick, before we go too deep into any sort of particular topic, tell people about the OKS Fisher podcast. You guys are the first official. You're what made the OKS Podcast Network a network, because it went from 1 show to 2, and you were the first one to be the number 2.
First is the worst, second is the best.
Yeah, I think me and Greg were talking behind the scenes for months and months and months, and
Typical.
finally pestered you guys enough to let us have a podcast. So
Yeah, you guys really did twist my arm. I was like, Jesus, fine, I'll give you a podcast.
Just so we're clear, when he says you guys, he's talking about Tyler and Eric, not me. I wasn't me.
I remember pushing back pretty hard.
No,
I was
good
like,
though.
you know what this means. Like, it means you're gonna be doing this for a long time. It's podcasting is podcasting. Like, are you sure?
You gave us plenty of outs.
I did.
will say that. You gave us 100 different outs, laid the worst case scenarios on, and we're like, yeah, we're just gonna do it. We're not there.
So when Greg's like, oh, I don't know, I'm pretty done on fishing right now. I'm like, yeah. You say the same thing about deer hunting, and then you know he's always back. So no,
No,
it's
we're
good.
so good. We both collab nice and have some nice conversation about all sorts of fishing.
Well, you're I think your pride and joy, and I don't know how this competes with deer hunting or anything else, but you're a muskie guy. So like your muskie episodes do really good. I don't know that there's enough content about muskie fishing. So like Greg's like, well, we're not a muskie podcast. I'm like, well, Matt's a muskie fisher. You could lean hard muskie and then go everything else as it comes to you. Like if you want to do an episode about muskie every week, go for it. I think it's really cool. It's like the muskies are like the whitetail of fishing world, or like the mature bucks.
Yeah, they're the Boone and Crockett's,
They're
right?
Yeah.
The mature buck, but they're also the bow hunting mature buck.
Correct.
It's just as hard to catch a muskie as it is to shoot a big buck.
One really big difference there. Like people ask you, are you a meat hunter? Are you a trophy hunter? Well, if you're a big buck hunter, you get to be both because you get to eat the meat. You don't fillet them 52-inch muskie. So that's the harder. You get the grip and grin quick and slide that torpedo back in the water, you know? So yeah, you got to catch a few panfish here and there for table fare, I'm sure.
Yeah, but that's the fun in it though. That's the challenge because it relates so much to big buck hunting. Trying to play, you're trying to find a spot on a spot just like you are in the deer woods. So that translates. Skills translate really well to the water when you're chasing, muskies who don't like to eat to begin with and are pretty hard to find, as a whole. So,
well, if I go
Good
muskie
addiction.
fishing with you, I won't bring a banana, but I doubt I'll have any luck. I just don't see it happening for me. I'll be excited and enthused and optimistic, and then it won't happen. I'll be like, yep, that's why I didn't get my hopes up. Didn't want to get let down.
well, I got skunked this year. So I moved probably 25 fish and lost a few. I actually never held one in my hands. So
that's heartbreaking.
I got skunked for like the first
happens to the
25
best
years
of
of
us.
my muskie career.
The only muskie I ever caught jumped into my canoe.
Really?
And we got featured in it was like Wisconsin Outdoor News or some like print paper. We got our picture in. Me and my buddy Phil, he bartends at the Hilltop in Waukesha. So if you see Phil, ask him what the muskie story. But we were on the Pewaukee River in this huge aluminum canoe that was like twice the size as my car, so barely fit on the roof. It was pretty fun. We got all hopped up on watching River Monsters together a bunch. Well, let's go get some River Monsters. So we did. And we got on this bend of this river, and there's a deep spot, and there were a couple muskie fighting over territory, I think. And the water had pooled up from a rain and made like a bit of a, I don't know, like a pond off this bend, but it was shallow there. It wasn't, I don't think it's normally holding water. And there's a muskie just sitting there. And I was like, well, let's go try to catch that one. It's just sitting there. So we paddle over to it. And we may have done something illegal, but it never actually came to fruition. So like we didn't. But I grabbed the net. I was like, I'm gonna net this thing. Let's see if we can net it. And I don't think you're supposed to do that. But turns out we didn't have to because it jumped into the canoe. And I was like, we're about
Holy
opposite ends of
crap.
the canoe. We looked at each other, and it took it was like a whole like 2 seconds, like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi of us just staring at each other going like, did that just fucking happen? And then it's like flopping around, like, oh my God, grab it. What do we do? You know? And I don't know if you've ever grabbed a muskie that has all the fight left in it because we didn't wrestle it in. It was pretty hard to wrestle down, and they're pretty slimy.
Fish of 10,000 casts. That John Denver's full of shit.
Just jumped right in. We took our pictures and tossed it back. So that was the only muskie I ever touched.
It's a badass story, kind of.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
I'll take some of that luck.
Yeah, we could not believe it. Before the net even hit the water, the thing jumped into the boat.
Matt, maybe you should take Eric muskie fishing. Just keep the live well doors open and see what happens.
I've never had a buck jump in the back of my truck or anything yet, but
you almost had a deer jump into your car today.
I almost did take out a couple of doe on the way home today. So,
for those of you who've been listening to the OKS podcast for a while, you know Matt is also an excellent deer hunter and has joined on. Yeah, all the hunting stuff. He's been on Dropping Pins and talks about ground hunting. So, I mean, Matt absolutely just
he's
an
regular
part
podcast slut.
Yep. Not what I was going to say.
Just makes it sounds.
I usually don't call men that could eat me like a fun-size snack.
So. Oh, yeah. No, we're friendly enough that I don't think Matt would ever punch me, but I'd be terrified if he did.
I'll watch.
Yeah. Pay for that fight.
You always call me the gentle giant, so I'll be
I'll take the gentle version.
Police for you.
Yeah, you got to watch out for the quiet ones. They'll kill you. So don't poke the bear, people. But no, OKS Fisher, check them out. They've been on. They're the OGs of the OKS network, if you will. And I've heard you guys guest on other shows. I think you were on one of the Working Class Blunder podcasts, the Fish and Tacos, and I remember them complimenting you and Greg, saying you're their favorite fishing podcast, because a lot of other fishing podcasts, like I'm really good friends with Bailey Egbert and Alex Rudd, and they do their shows, the Rudd podcast, whatever he calls his. Bailey's is, he's got a couple of Serious Angler. They talk about a lot of industry happening, tournament fishing, baits, front-facing sonar, all this stuff. And what the Fish and Taco guy had said about you guys, he's like, you guys don't talk about that stuff. And he's like, I like listening to you because I need a break from that shit. And I just want to hear about fishing. And you guys just talk about fishing. And so I respect and love that also. I think it's fantastic. It's a super relatable podcast by two dudes that are actively in it. Greg trolls for, Lakers on Lake Michigan and trout and salmon or whatever he's catching. You're doing the musky stuff. We know Greg can put down some huge panfish in his neck of the woods on the inland lakes, and anything and everything you guys talk about it. Greg goes down to the Gulf and he fishes the inshore fishing from the beach and catches all sorts of weird sharks and shit.
He loves that.
Nerds out on it every year. If springtime comes, he starts getting his stuff ready, and so I think you guys have a really cool broad stroke podcast in the fishing realm.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot. We try to keep it relevant. Every week we're talking about something you guys could be doing or the listeners could be doing that week, and try to keep a lot of that information relevant and up to date. Kind of like you guys do on the hunter side, we do it. We just have 365 days of fishing, so we try to pinpoint that and what's relative and kind of stuff we want to talk about too. And people like listening, I guess.
Well, if you want to meet Matt, there's a good chance he'll be at the Wisconsin Open Season Sportsman Show in the Dells come the end of March. But obviously follow the OKS Fisher. Go check them out. They have an Instagram page. They have podcasts. I don't think you guys have a YouTube yet, but we might cross that bridge. I don't know. It's tricky. Beyond that, like Matt is also the owner of Weathered Oaks Game Calls, Custom Game Calls, Weathered Oaks Custom Game Calls.
Weathered Oaks Game Calls, yeah. It's a long name, but
they are custom, but that's not in the name. But
grunt calls, the turkey calls. I mean, they look great, but they work even better.
It's not better. We've gotten some really good feedback on our grunt tubes that you machine for us. We also do the selected short run of the turkey calls for the trade show. We sold out of those last year. When you build stuff, people buy it. It's pretty great.
Word on the street is it's Josh Bomar's favorite grunt call.
He did buy one.
Yeah,
so,
that's a fact.
I don't know if anyone knows this, but he kills all his bucks with an OKS 100 grunt tube.
He's got 6 200s with it. Okay, that's a lie. I'm lying. But they are great grunt, and Josh Bomar does own one.
He does own one.
That is true.
It's a fact. He bought it. I saw him buy it.
If you don't like Josh Bomar, he still owns one.
Yeah. All right, Matt, thanks for calling in. We have one more behind you here, so we'll keep the train rolling.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
Have a good one. Let's get together soon.
speaking of things to do in the off season, and who do we?
What a huda.
It was
Whoulda woulda.
someone said it's the game within the game or the hunt within the hunt. Who just said that? Who were you just talking to that said that?
The trees through the forest.
Uh,
I don't know.
but that's what trapping is. Trapping is knowing
Zach?
exactly where to put something.
Yeah, like where its toe is going to
Hey
Well,
Zach.
unless you're me.
be.
And
Hey
there's
man.
Zach. Glad you got the memo.
How's it going?
It's going okay. We're here. We didn't know what to talk about, so we figured we'd call on the big dogs. Everyone else on the network, we have strength in numbers.
Yeah, well, first time listener. I mean, no, I screwed that up already. Long time listener, first time caller.
I think this is your first time calling. You've been on the show, but this is your first time calling. It's fun that we have this feature.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm here. I'm fighting the flu because that's the
Oh.
gift that keeps on giving that my kids gave our entire family. But we're on the mend now.
It's brutal, man. It's brutal. I think you had it not that long ago. I was surprised to hear that you had it again. It was your birthday.
Well, we had the vomiting diarrhea flu
Yep, the stomach
right
flu.
before Christmas, and now we've got flu A, which is just the exhaustion, body aches, general misery.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, man.
terrible.
We our timelines were pretty similar with my family, and I think hopefully, like us, hopefully you guys are also on the way out because it feels like it's been a month of misery.
Yeah, it sounds like that. Well, the good news is I'm the only one who's had to raw dog it because I thought it was a sinus infection, and then when I figured out it was the flu, and the kids showed symptoms, we were able to get them Tamiflu, so they're already like bouncing back pretty well. So it's
Awesome.
just me dragging ass right now, but
Crazy what modern medicine
as
can
it
do.
should be.
Yeah. Well, you were one of the earlier folks to join the network, I think. So you were one of our kind of guinea pigs a little bit, and I was like, "Yeah, you want to do this? Yeah, all right. Well, let's kind of see if we can do this." And tell people about you. Actually, before you do that, we started the Daily Deer. It's another podcast on the network, hosted by everybody. So anybody on the network's welcome to do an episode. Please help me.
I need to help you. I'm sorry.
But also,
I failed you.
I may have been. I got a little bit of time on my hands over the Christmas break, and I was like, I'm gonna do another thing, and then I forgot that I had a job, so then I'm like, oh shit. But today's episode was off-season reading, and definitely made mention of your book, Turning Feral. So if you want to start there and kind of roll into the OK as Trapper podcast, I think that'd be a great lead-in.
Yeah, so for those listening, I'm Zach. I am an adult onset hunter, trapper, and I wrote a cool little book about it called Turning Feral, which was just all about kind of not fully unplugging from the matrix, so to speak, and moving out to the middle of nowhere and learning how to hunt more better and trap more better and all that good stuff. So that's what the book's about. And then over the past really 6 years, trapping has kind of become my mainstay, and even ironically, after a couple of years of trapping, I actually lost my corporate job, and I was actually able to pay my mortgages trapping for a couple months when I was trying to find a new job.
You got that much fur that you can do that?
Trapping is just say what?
You trap that much that, like, we were talking about this last week, and Greg
Yeah.
said, well, you can make money, but not that much, but like you can. I was like, really? I mean, I don't know about you. So that's pretty wild, man. I mean, I don't want to give people a false sense of things, but
Yeah,
that's
I mean, it
pretty
was-
crazy. Your mortgage must be really cheap.
Yeah, it well, it isn't, is the irony though, but I was able to get some government contracts too. So it was a little bit of both just recreational trapping and doubling down on that in that time that I had free, plus some gigs with AFWA doing BMP trap studies,
What does BMP
some
stand
stuff
for?
for fish and game. So
What does BMP
So
stand
BMP is the best management practices. That is a program put on by Association Fish and Wildlife Agencies, where since 1993, every year they've been, paying trappers to go and check the efficacy of different traps. So footholds, cable restraint devices, cage traps, all sorts of stuff, and doing actual scientific studies to go and fight in the legislature and in lobbying for trappers' rights. So when somebody says, hey, footholds are
the most cruel thing ever. There's actual video, photo, and evidence that says, no, actually, XYZ trap with an offset jaw actually does, zero damage to the foot of whatever critter you're trying to catch. So kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
You need those studies to combat the narrative that has been painted against trapping out Imagine. So,
And from the real world, right?
Yeah.
Like you get people to do that, speaks volumes.
Yeah. So that's what it's done. And then the trapping thing and the podcast in particular, obviously met Eric, and, he was, like I said, kind of a guinea pig. And it was a perfect opportunity for me a couple years into trapping to then have a platform to say, hey, let me talk to people who are way smarter than me at trapping. And that's really what it's evolved into, which is just trapping stories. Not so much on the technical side, but there's some of that intermixed in, and, really just getting to talk to people who have been doing trapping. Well, not necessarily longer than me. Some people are new to trapping that I have on the show too, but it's all about the tradition, why it's important. And, one of the things that you mentioned and talking about off-season work is pretty much every great hunter that I've had on the trapping podcast has doubled down and said, trapping will make you a better hunter, from the reading the sign, from understanding to where to put a tiny pan in order to catch a critter. Like, you just have to do a lot more study, which translates over to really whatever else you want to do in the outdoor recreation space.
is it legal to trap whitetails? Is that frowned upon? Or...
It's not commonplace. That's for damn sure.
I got one. There it is.
Well, the Texas boys were just trapping some
That's
whitetail.
true.
They used a helicopter.
Yeah.
Very effective trap.
My buddy's dad invented a net gun for trapping whitetail. My buddy Shane Maddox, his dad was the president of the Safari Club Wisconsin chapter, and invented and patented a whitetail gun net thing to capture them.
So
He
when
also
people
owns a
say,
deer
"Hey, did you
farm."
catch one?" You can say, "Yeah,
I did.
I did."
Yeah. No, that's I say that because I could really become a better whitetail hunter if I could trap them. Well, I
You
could trap
picking
'em.
up trapping is the least thing. You don't need to do that yet. You need to do that in a little while, but not this year.
No,
Eric.
it's not gonna happen. But I think that'd be a really fun pastime with the kids. I think it's a bit more passive, less active. Like, you could do the work, put in the work, and not have to worry about them scaring off an animal in the middle of, like, oh, I'm full drawn. You just decided to, like, freak out. I think, and you bring your kids along with you. I know you block out their faces, which is probably smart. But I see you bringing your kids along on the trap line and other things like that. That looks like a really wholesome activity.
Yeah,
to
and
get them outside.
actually, it was it is, and it's also a fun thing to do. Not even out on the trap line, is like teaching them to set traps. There's a guy I'm going to have on who's been making these 3D printed plastic traps that kids can set that are full replicas. And they don't hurt when they snap or anything like that. And so I've got some for my kids coming. But the other thing is, I had Fred Eichler on the show, and he told me something that I've done with my kids now is, like, if you're bored and you want to kill some time with your kids in the backyard, is get them to make sets. And, it's like camouflaging. So you're like, all right, I'm going to let you do this. Obviously, you show them, you make sure it's all safe, blah, blah, blah. But then getting them to, really hide it, like blend the dirt, do the stuff that you need to do to make sure that it's a good set. And then, it's like trying to make something invisible. And the kids really like to do that. So, like, just playing those types of games to get kids used to setting traps. And like you said, there's not much at stake if you're taking your kids on the trap line. Obviously, like scent control, stuff like that can be a bit of a PETA, but other than that, like, just getting them out there and showing them how to do it, it's a pretty good hobby for the whole family to get involved with.
Get them
honestly.
outdoors, yeah, and just bare minimum, get them outdoors. I saw someone post something. I don't know who it was. I think my wife shared it with me, but it was someone taking red food dye and doing blood tracking to, like, a stuffed animal.
With the kids?
Yeah, so you just go out ahead of time and you can just litter this over leaves. And
I've been to a hunter safety course with someone else that I was like
that's a
taking, and
fun
they did
idea.
that as part of the hunter safety field day. They had a big blood trail thing that they
I
would
could
do like
use
that.
better blood trailing skills. I could get my kids to be really good at it. That'd have a good payout someday.
There
Because,
you
like,
go.
I'm only gonna get worse vision as I age. Like I trained you really well for this.
Well, I'm
when you were 5.
colorblind, so I need to get my kids on it ASAP.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But the trapping thing too, like right there, I would love to learn more about that company you're talking about too. So if you have any information or when that episode airs, I'll probably dive in, because I know for sure my middle kid would just geek out over that. my oldest, maybe my youngest, I have no idea. He's like a super wild card. But that
Yeah.
would be a really interesting like pastime for them to go putz around with in their backyard and to get off my back for a while. That'd be nice.
Yeah, just be like, go hide this trap, and then hopefully they don't hide it too good.
Yeah, I mean, he's already kind of like doing. He's always trying to like make me stuff. He's like, let me make you. He just goes in the kitchen, starts pulling shit together. I'm like, no. We need to actually cook that for dinner. Don't touch that. Oh shit, that. But he loves that activity of doing things. I'm like, oh man, I think that would be good. So
Heck yeah.
I appreciate you jumping in
Yeah.
here to share that. But no, your podcast has done well. I think there's a lot of interest. I don't know if you have any plans to do like a 101 series, but we on our podcast, we seem to get a number of people DMing us or calling in or messaging about like love to learn trapping. Can't wait to learn about trapping. Love the idea of this podcast. How do I do this? How do I learn it? Like there's a lot of people that are trying to figure it out from a 101 level. I'm not telling you to do this by any stretch, but I'm telling you there's interest. If you did a 101 series,
You're signing me up for more. You're signing me up for more shit. Come on.
I'm just saying, if you did a 101 series, you just maybe that's what you do for the next one instead of getting a guest on. Like
Zach, you can't
break
see
it down.
you can't see me right now, but I have a shit-eating grin on my face going, yes, he absolutely is.
I get these ideas, guys. It's like I can't help it. But I'm just saying. Tyler, who does
You don't have to do it, but I would highly encourage that if you'd like to.
It'd be so awesome if you did.
like if it never happened, I will not remember this conversation. It's just how my brain's wired. I will just move on. But Tyler, who does the Upduck, which there's no one on the Upduck calling in. The fuck Upduck.
Tyler.
What the fuck duck? I can't say. They do the Upduck, which is like a through line of dog training and dog hunting.
Waterfowl.
But there's waterfowl and pheasant. So that's why it's upland plus waterfowl, whatever. Tyler's like, I feel like I need to do more Upduck stuff. What could I do? I was like, well, we just started the daily deer. You could do the daily duck. You could do the daily dog. You're training dogs. People are paying you money to train the dogs. It doesn't have to be daily. You could be the weekly mutt or something. I don't know. But like
the ugly mutt.
People are always asking for new ideas. So I don't mean to give you one. It's kind of how my brain's wired.
It is.
Well, I like it. Now just make me more time. But yeah, I might do that coming up. Maybe with some of those toy traps. Seriously, it might be a fun thing to kind of talk through just basic mechanics, basic dirt hole sets, basic water sets, things of that nature. And then if we get real frosty, we can do skinning.
Woo!
There's so much to learn. And a topic like that, unless you don't have a mentor, it's really hard to approach. So the fact that you as an adult onset like dove in head first is pretty wild. Like I don't even know where I would buy a trap. There used to be a trapping shop in Oconomowoc in downtown where I live. It's gone. The guy went out of business. They tore the building down actually. I entertained buying it for a hot second. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with this business?
Cool. Ideas.
I was like, how much did you sell it for? And he told me, he's like, you just have to buy all my inventory. I was like, well, now I'm stuck with all the shit you couldn't sell. What am I going to do? But he had a really big trapping clientele. That was his shtick. Sold a lot of Stormy Cromer hats.
Well, it's popular up there up in Wisconsin and Michigan, the whole area.
Muskrats, beavers, coyotes.
I saw beavers when I was whitetail hunting. I couldn't believe it.
Beavers, coyotes.
Yep. Yeah. So am I going to pay my mortgage with it? Doubtful.
Can't go wrong with beaver.
That is so.
Hey, you never know, man. You never know. You get your back against the wall, you might figure it out.
That's true. We have a buddy of mine, Alex Sherbanow, who provided us with some canoes a while back, which was really nice of him to do. He made a post on his social that he works for a trail cam company, and I think he's called into this podcast before. But he was like trying to trap a beaver, and I think he like set a cell cam out or something like that to see where it was moving. I don't know the whole story if that's how he got it. Do you have opinions on? I don't know if you can run cell cams where you are trail cams, but if you're gonna run and check a trail cam, you might as well just put the trap out.
Well, I think with trapping, you're required to go check it daily.
You have to, but just to figure out like where to set it.
Yeah, well, it depends on where you're at. I mean, you can use cameras. Like I put cameras on beaver dams just to see if they're active. But we don't have cell service where I'm at, so I can't do a cell check. So I got to go check it anyway. So oftentimes I get too lazy because I got to go out there regardless. So I'm just like, I'll just sit here and see if it happens.
Yeah.
So.
But we had a guy hunting with us.
All right, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
I'm gonna have to drop off here. So I gotta go do some some bed bath time stuff for kiddos.
All right, thanks,
Sounds
Zach.
good, buddy. Appreciate it. Feel better.
All right, guys. Go check out the OK Traps podcast.
Yes.
Bye.
Who was it that you weren't on the gun deer drive with us, but Alec, who was
Beckers?
Greg shot the coyote.
Yep.
And then Alex like, you mind if I take that coyote? And Greg's like, yeah, sure, you can take him. He's like, well, I'm gonna make a hand warming mitt or a hand muff out of it. I was like, you just gonna go do that? Like, I wouldn't even know where to start. It just
You start with having no kids. That's the good starting spot. And then you're probably good. No,
Like, what do you
I'm
do
not
with-
making excuses.
like I just think my neighbors would think
I've skinned a few
murdering
coyotes
people.
because I did some coyote hunting with some buddies in the winter. We'd go out and my buddy Lane and
Yeah.
we had some guys we go coyote hunting and call, and we've shot a couple. And I'd always offer to skin them up because I wanted to skin them up. And I had at the time when I lived in Peshtigo, I had a 30 by 40 pole building. In the back, 10 by 30 was insulated, and I had a propane in-wall heater.
Mhm.
So I could just, coyote's frozen because you shoot him in January, February.
Just let
whatever.
them sit frozen.
So I
water.
would just hang it in front of my heater, run the heater for a little while, and just when it's just like a deer when it starts to slowly thaw, that's like when it's easiest. You don't want it to be fully thawed because the skin kind of sticks.
Mhm.
But like I watched a couple of videos, and man, the tail was always a little bit tricky. Grab a pliers, pull it through this and that, but like skinning out toes and all that shit, like you do one, you've learned 1,000,000% more.
Hmm.
You do two.
I don't have a lot of patience for that kind of stuff. I just feel like I'm doing it wrong, and then I start to freak out and panic. You saw me panicking a little bit when I fucked up on that deer. That version of myself isn't very good.
Which deer are you talking about?
The one that you came to help me track.
Yeah.
I was not in
Yeah.
a good place.
Yeah.
I'll get to that place in my mind doing those types of things. When I butchered my first deer, I was like, what?
Well,
how do you know?
it's
How
a
do you
lot.
know if this is right? How do you know? I start freaking. My hands, I have no dexterity. The blades have gone dull. I'm like, "Ah, fuck."
Oh,
Then I start to get mad that I'm like ruining the animal. Then I start to feel guilty that I'm like disrespecting it. It just goes
a
bad for me
landslide.
quick.
Yeah.
It'll landslide. Yeah, it goes from like this little thing to the whole. I'm completely wrecked. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna turn to Rocky and start punching this fucking thing. Like, I don't know what to do with myself.
So you just call and help.
People are like, Eric, calm down, you see? And then I would get the same way doing math at the kitchen table when you do the word problems. Like, why does Johnny have 10 apples? I don't fucking know why Johnny has 10 apples. Why? Why, Johnny? Why do you always have apples? Freak out.
Who
throw
does
the papers
Johnny
at-
think he is?
God. Teacher's like, calm down, Eric. Fuck you, Miss Libby. You know,
Fuck Johnny too.
burn all of you. I freak out.
Tell me how you really
my
feel, Eric.
patience
How
goes
do you
like-
really feel?
it goes, I'm like a really patient human until like these types of things happen to me.
Like, here's some things you can do in the off season. Watch a couple, read a book on processing and how Johnny counts his apples.
Oh my god. My daughter was doing math problems, like word problems the other night, and she was kind of getting that little tone. I was like, I feel ya. I fucking don't know why they have to care about this either.
Then you're
She's
like, wait,
way smarter than I ever was. So she's already doing word problems, and she's in like she's in like first grade. She's doing like sixth grade problems with that. I'm like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
well, you're
Good
like
for her.
5 years ahead of me, so like I think you're gonna be fine.
she's a smart kid.
Yeah, but off-season reading, I picked up the Sand County Almanac.
Oh, is that Aldo Leopold?
Yeah, it's dare I say beautiful. I don't even know how to interpret that book yet.
Did you
just-
finish it or you?
No,
in
no,
it?
I'm just going through it. I think it's one of those books that you could probably just pick up anywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
It's broken down by month at first, and it goes into some other stuff, states. But it's a lot of poetry. But it's like ecology and conservation, and then like the poetry is all interwoven. So I'm like, what do I? Whoa, this is totally different than anything else I've ever read. And people swear like this is the book. You know, if you're a
it's
hunter,
a
if you haven't
staple,
read that
a
book,
conservation
yeah.
staple.
And I mean, shame on me for waiting till I'm 38 to pick this thing up. But I've been trying to build up a little bit of a.
You're
I'm
a
trying
good
to learn more
reader.
about conservation.
You're a good reader, man.
Yeah.
You've always got books that you're working on and studying. I got to do better myself.
I read every morning, and then at night I read every night. But I bought a little like book light because I've been doing a lot of Audible. These aren't the kind of books I'm going to Audible, and I don't even know if they are on Audible. So I want to like take highlighter to page, take the time to learn these books, have them to go back to. So nighttime reading, that's what I'm after, is the
Good for you.
conservation. So the morning stuff is more of like my business bullshit stuff. But anyway, yeah, definitely reading is a great way to learn more about the outdoors, especially from great minds like Aldo Leopold. Like,
And outside of the hunting season, I feel like, especially in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin chapter of like our BHA, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, there's pint nights that go on like
Yeah.
once a month all around our state. And you should look into it. Like, even if you're not a member of the actual organization, you haven't paid your fees, you're not like signed up, you can go attend these pint nights. And there's usually like a little bit of like something thematic that you can maybe like learn about, read some literature on, or you're just meeting with like people who are like-minded. You're probably gonna like make some good networking connections. Like, that's a great thing to do. I've been to a
Yeah,
few of those
yep,
here in
same.
Wisconsin, and they're awesome. You're gonna meet so many people that you didn't know were right around your area, that are around your area, who will blow your socks off with what they know, what they've done, in the outdoor world, which is a really cool thing.
It is cool. And whatever you're like, your disposition towards BHA is, because I think some people have opinions about it. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, these people that show up to it are not different from you and me in that they're just in the woods doing stuff. Like, the politics are not part of that. So like, keep the politics at home and just go and enjoy a pint, potentially with someone that enjoys the outdoors, and you'll probably learn something. And then these people are part of the community too. I remember when I went to my first pint night, one of the main guys I connected with was a lawyer by day. He was an attorney. And I was like, oh, I know the law firm you work for. I think like we had done some client work for them at the
Gruber?
company. No,
This Dave Gruber.
it wasn't Gruber.
Sorry.
I actually met way too many lawyers. Turns out lawyers suck at marketing, apparently. So like,
They all
we
wanna
got
hit you
one,
up?
we got all of them. It was very interesting. Some very fond memories of working with lawyers. Some are fucking hilarious. They're smart people.
I would hope so.
So then I'm like, wow, you're a lawyer, but like you hunt. Then like, so we were chopping it up, and it was really cool. I remember it was like a snowy night. It was by State Fair, or some bar that the pint night was held at. And I was like, I told Holly, I'm going to go to this. I want to like meet some people that hunt, because I didn't at the time. I don't even think I really knew Greg Tubbs.
Yeah.
Yet.
Wow.
So I was trying to like.
If you don't know Greg
meet
Tubbs,
more
you don't know
people.
anybody. Tubbs is salt of the earth, man.
Yeah. Yes. That was BC or before Greg Tubbs. What's the
PGT is pre Greg Tubbs. I don't even remember PGT.
Oh yeah, is that an era?
Blanked out.
Don't listen to the podcast before Greg came on. It was god awful. It was just me. Fucking terrible experience.
Dude, I give you so much credit for just pioneering it and just taking it on and going, I'm gonna do this. And then you stuck to it.
Oh god,
you've done it for so damn long.
I used to not say my name because I was like, I'm not credible in this industry. Like, I want people to know who I am. I was like, this is the Where to Hunt podcast.
Hi.
We're gonna talk about this today, and I wouldn't like say who I was. And like, you listen back then to Wired to Hunt, it's like, you're listening to the Wired to Hunt podcast with Mark Kenyon. Da, 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 da. And I was like, well, it says his fucking name. I'm not saying my name. Like, I'm a nobody. No one wants to know who Eric Clark is. Like, I was terrified of somebody like, there's no fucking deer in this guy's wall. Why am I listening to this joker?
But you were doing it before
people knew what it was.
Before everybody was, before it was a thing.
They're like, is it a radio show? Do I have to come to you? Like, what? I'm like, no, it's a Skype call. And they're like, what's that? I was like, Skype is this thing I use, this program called Pamela to record. Like, who's Pam? I was like,
Panned?
This is gonna really, I'm sorry.
Pammed?
I don't mean to make this more confusing. Just know that I will call you and I will record the conversation.
There's a silent D at the end. Got it.
Yeah, Pam or Pam. Get the fuck out of my office.
Dude, you've been grinding for a long time.
If there's anybody listening to that knows what Pamela is and Skype calls from back in the day, like, that's how it was done. There wasn't even video. Like, it wasn't virtual at all. It was literally a phone call that I recorded. And I had my one little mic on the desk. I lived with my roommate at the time, and I was like, he'd be like playing video games. Oh, damn it. I'm like, texting, shut the fuck up out there. I'm recording a podcast. It's like, what are you doing? It's like this whole thing.
For those of you who haven't figured it out, what is Eric Clark doing in the off season, in his time away from hunting?
Just
Eric is trying to figure out how to run 1,800 different businesses and market for 1,000 different companies, and like killing it in all of those. You are like so business oriented and like goal setting mindset, man. You operate at a different level. You're like octane racing fuel. I'm like diesel unleaded with 10% of octane, like the bullshit shit. Because my mind just runs,
dude,
at one level.
You draw these amazing drawings. You do antler repair. You're a teacher. You're putting lesson plans together. Plus, you're doing the Dropping Pins podcast. So we didn't get to talk about that one. But Derek is the host of the Dropping Pins podcast.
It's fun. That's a fun one.
And you're helping out the Daily Deer out of complete nowhere. So your wife's are like, cool, Eric gave you more shit to do. Great.
Yeah, I've done one of those. So
did well. So like we're all pretty motivated people in various arenas. We all love this stuff deeply. And hopefully the listeners, you guys that are tuning in, enjoy what we put out. And if you don't like this one, just change the channel. You might find another one on network that you do enjoy. Very different personalities, very different people, all very talented in their own way.
Yes, but my favorite part of the crew you've assembled is you talk about it, but like you live it. The egoless part of it. Like listen to the people who call in. They're humble. They're amazing at what they do, and like are great at talking to people. But they are good, humble, egoless people who just want to help.
Very curious, wanting to learn, wanting to help.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Those are the tenets that we look for in our network hosts. So we do vet them. We have turned people down. We don't take anybody and everybody. We're very particular about that, although it has been pretty serendipitous. Like, Whitney's like, well, Zach, I knew Zach or whatever. Like it's very much like referral basis almost. So yeah, that's the episode today. Take your mind off of deer hunting, change a channel, bounce around the network. There's lots to listen to. Let me just do a quick rundown of, because we didn't get everybody to call in because it's a weeknight. People are obviously busy living their lives. None of us do this full time. So if we look at the network itself, I have to look at like a list because I will forget all of them.
Yeah, in our aggressively average style. Thank you, Whitney. Stole that. We also let them know like 15 minutes before we were going to go live, like, hey, if anybody's available to call in.
Yeah, totally did a terrible
job.
We'd
love you to call, but they showed up.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they showed up in droves. It was pretty fantastic. So the podcast that we do have in the network, and we just redid our media kit. So it's grown quite a bit. So there's OK's Fisher, who you heard from. Matt and Greg do that. Greg's also co-host on this show. Upduck, they didn't call in, so I don't know F those guys. No, I'm just kidding. That's Tyler Meaden and Jeff Lukey and Matt Jeske. Am I saying? No, I probably got his last name wrong. Anyway,
I've not met Matt in person. I met Jeff.
Well, apparently Matt's like the most hardcore one because he duck hunts the Mississippi in a duck boat and like kills more ducks than anybody ever.
That's badass.
And then Jeff, he actually like takes his dogs hunting with him, and Tyler just trains dogs. So they're like a married couple, much like Greg and I.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. OK's Trapper, you heard from Zach. OK's Cook, you heard from Chris. Camp OK's, we didn't hear from Sean Ritter. I think he's kind of getting his stuff back online. His computer, like, I don't know, we dropped it in a lake or something happened to his computer.
Probably a kayak fishing tournament going on.
A minute. Yeah. Lot about fishing, but he's been like our MC of the network where he's kind of promoting all the other shows by and large. So he'll talk about anything. So it's not necessarily camping, but Camp OK is more like a camp vibe.
Yep.
That's the point of the name there. Western Territory is Levi. He does his shows live on Wednesday on Instagram. So big game hunting out west. He's a guide. If you want to hear some cool bear stories.
Awesome stories.
Just
good storyteller.
Good dude. Yep. Southern you heard from those guys. Turkey season, I was just hanging out with Paul a whole bunch. Paul Campbell down at ATA. Paul is I think he's like the director of national business development for NWTF. So he knows a thing or two about turkeys.
Knows a little bit.
It's his life. Turkeys are his life.
On a different level than any turkey hunter I've ever met. Turkeys are that fella's life.
He goes deep with turkeys,
which is awesome.
But
he knows it.
He knows it so well. But the podcast is like the history of the turkey in our country in various segments. So very narrative, story, historical podcast, not like tactical how to turkey call.
Yeah.
Very different. Turkey season is the name of that podcast. Dropping Pins, that's you. That's a great narrative story style of aha moments, gotcha moments, when things clicked for people that kill mature bucks. Everyone's like, this OK Center podcast is too much bullshit. Well, that's all we have. Dropping Pins. If you want to learn how to actually target these mature deer and hunt them and hear from other like whitetail killers, you can tune in to Dropping Pins.
We're gonna have guys that you heard of and guys that you have not heard of.
Yeah,
I like talking to both.
Yep, and it's hard to find the ones you haven't heard of. There's actually a lot of threads like, does anyone know anyone that I haven't heard of that I can talk to?
Who's not been on 15 podcasts?
Yeah. So you kind of got your same players that rotate out there, which is fine. Boyer, that's our buddy Matt Morris. he didn't get to call in tonight. He works pretty hard. But the Boyer podcast is a maker's podcast about how he like makes traditional bows. Matt gets pretty nerdy about like the type of wood from the type of region of the country and how it does this and how it shoots that way. And I mean, he's literally making these bows from scratch. And from what I heard, they're pretty damn good.
I mean, that's artisan shit.
Yeah.
right there.
So
Craftsman.
not just traditional bow hunting, but literally making the bows.
And along with that, it's a lot of do-it-yourself stuff. Like they make
Mhm.
arrows, they make fletchings, like leather napping quivers, and like it's a whole thing.
Yeah,
and it's
it's cool.
pretty awesome.
It's cool. If you want to go really, really deep into something, like go check that out.
Yes.
And the way he interviews, and he's so gracious, and he's a very like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Considerate. Like he really loves to listen to what people have to say. So a really good host, because I just bulldoze over people. I'm pretty bad at this. Powderhorn is launching, I think, next week. I've been talking to Jared. It is our first shooting podcast. Anything from Grandpa's lever action to six gun.
Pew pew.
Like he's going to cover it all. He's in the shooting world professionally as a hobbyist. He's a hunter. He's also a metal worker. He forges steel. Really, really cool dude. Excited to hear that one come to the network here. I think there's a handful of episodes recorded. We just got his intro done. His podcast cover art is done. So he's earned his stripes there. And should be launching pretty soon. I've been the bottleneck on that. And then Wild Strength is live, but new episodes coming and new cover art coming soon. So that was Whitney who called in. So I think that's everybody. That's 3, 6, 9, 12 plus ours, 13 podcasts.
Wow.
On the network. So that happened all
That's
within about a
insane.
year.
That's insane.
And it's very confusing. That people were like, "Hey, Eric, look what you're doing. I want to work with you." I'm like, "Did you get the right number?" Like, I'm not the meat eater. Like, you trying to call Steve?
People like what you're doing, buddy.
Yeah. So check it out. This is a fun episode to record. This bourbon is delicious. Let me tell you. If you're looking for a really good bourbon, check out Redline Whiskey Co. They don't sponsor us, but it's just fucking delicious.
It's too easy to drink.
Speaking of notes and how to describe something, how would you describe how this tastes?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, can you taste the cinnamon?
No.
It's so good.
I could smell it when I came in here, but I don't think it was because of that. I think it was probably because of a little infuser or something. But man, that whiskey is delightful.
Let me read this description. Grain, water, fire, and metal. Individually, they each serve their own purpose, but together, alcohol is born. That's a pretty powerful sentence.
I'm in.
All right. Distilled from the grains of the mash, the newly born alcohol comes raw and undefined. It is within this desperation for flavor, the wood barrel plays its starring role, turning this white dog from an unrefined spirit into a flavorful, robust whiskey. I can't talk. They took our jobs. The traditional wood for aging whiskey is white oak. Fortunately, traditions are meant to be explored. There are hundreds of species of oak. This sounds like the Boyer podcast.
Yeah.
Found across the globe, just waiting to be stumbled upon. Join us in this journey of exploration, discovery, unveiling the unique flavors and expressions of different oaks from around the world. Let's explore the Elements single barrel.
I want a custom bow made out of a whiskey cask, whiskey barrel.
Just licking it. What are you doing with that bow there, guy?
Those bucks will come in drooling.
I'm a Boyer. I lick my bow.
The Boyer's booze.
The Boyer's booze. The Boyer bourbon. How about that?
Whoa.
Hey, if Matt
Hey.
listens to this episode. Oh, wait, we have a caller. Is it Matt? Shit, we're just winding down. Who is it? Oh, it's Jared. We were just talking about his. So let's get
I think
Jared on.
that one's really going to take off. I mean, gun people love their guns. Let's talk guns.
Jared, welcome to the show, buddy. We're just
Be real honest. Listening to that on hold, I don't know if I want in now. I mean, I heard about licking bows, and that went off the rails real quick there, fella.
It doesn't take much. It
Let me
doesn't
tell you,
take much.
if I put my tongue on a gun right now in this cold weather, it might get stuck. A triple dog dare you.
She's a little chilly out there. She's a little chilly.
Welcome to the
Do
you know what you're getting into? Like, are you sure? Do you want to back out?
No, man, I'm actually more excited about it. I was at Dallas Safari Club this past weekend in Atlanta, and looking at the show from like not a guy who's trying to sell something, I guess, but just a dude there to enjoy it and tell people about what's going on was refreshing. So running around, hey, this is Powderhorn Podcast. Let me check out some of these guns. And I think the Dallas Safari Club and maybe even like SCI shows, if people aren't familiar with them, we're going to do an episode on those tomorrow, and then that'll be our second episode. But you have shotguns there that are $300, and there are shotguns there that cost $300,000.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
that was you run the gamut, I guess, from bottom to top. You have Holland and Holland from England, and then you have like TriStar from this entry level shotgun that you could find on the shelf at Academy.
Those are the ones that I'm
What a
interested
range. Yeah.
in. I work with a fellow by the name of Josh Ward at Gunpowder. So, like, speaking of firearms, the company name is
that's your full time.
Yeah, my full time is Gunpowder. I run our run is a relative term. Like, I don't even know, lead run. I don't fucking know. Our digital team, and Josh Ward sits on the PR side. He's a director of PR for our outdoor shoot firearm categories. I've never heard someone with such a colorful lexicon talk about firearms the way that he does. And he's worked with these brands. He's helped develop firearms. I actually pitched him on being a podcast host. He might still do it. You have to get him as a guest, but you're the next best thing, because I don't know a lot of gun people. Like, what you just said right there in and of itself is more than I already have. I just don't know, but there's appetite for it. And I feel bad. There's some of our listeners that are like, can you talk about more of this ammunition or this rifle? I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not the one.
And I'm looking forward to it, because I'm that nerd enough where I appreciate the basic stuff, like, shoot with the cheapest ammo you can find, enjoy it. But then, if you're willing to spend that money, there's a lot of fun to be had as well, nerding out, like picking the load that works best at a certain temperature, at a certain humidity. But I'm never going to turn my nose up at the guy that's like, man, I just got this ammo for a deal. Let's go destroy some pumpkins or some soda bottles. So
now you're speaking our language.
Fun to be had in all facets of it.
Well, when I asked you what you want the cover art to look like, you're like, have you ever been to a shooting range where there's like an old microwave or refrigerator or something like that? Like, that's what I want it to be.
Hell yeah.
And so there's a busted TV on the cover.
Do you have it on there? I want to see it.
Just don't touch any cords.
Oh, heck yeah.
It may not be the range you'd go to after you've been there a few times. You'd be like, you know what, maybe we should get that membership at the indoor shooting range up the road. But Friday night before deer season, you didn't, your gun tipped over in your truck, and you're like, oh man, we got to go to the public range tomorrow and just make sure this dude is on. But no, it's super excited about it. It was fun, going around, and like I said, man, just looking at guns in a different way. And I'm hoping that we bring in people that just, you can be super serious about it, just like deer hunting, duck hunting, turkey hunting. But there are those weekend warriors that just wake up, they take what they got, they go out in the woods, or in my case, they're going to go to the range and they're going to shoot. They may not get first place, but they're going to shoot every round of ammo that they brought with them and have a great time.
Hell yeah.
That's us. That's us. So if you're on that episode, you bring us on.
I can't wait to listen to your stuff, because I do like learning about it. Like, I was just thinking about this season. Like, I sighted in my rifle to go to Oregon in a gravel pit that had like microwaves and busted clay pigeons all over. And like, that's where I sighted in my gun with the new scope that we had from Riton. And then, like, in one day in Oregon, I learned so much about. They're talking Coriolis effect and the spin of the barrel pulling, like, over long. I was like, Jesus, I was very ill prepared.
Just need to pull the trigger, guys.
Very ill prepared.
But you did it. So then Derek did shoot at 700 yards or whatever it was and put it down.
Nice. Yeah, no, I think the way I described it to a lot of people this weekend is like, if you've ever been to a shooting range and you've had to rummage through the trash can for clothespins or target backers, then this may be the place for you.
Perfect.
It sounds right. Yeah, you nailed the demographic correctly. You definitely speak the lingo and the language. So, sorry for Sam is my brother-in-law, and he works for Interstate Music, which is why we have signed bottles from country singers in our studio. And so I'm like, hey, Sam, can you do an intro? He's like, yeah, I got it. And then I was like, yeah, here's all the stuff I want you to do, and here's like the sound it should sound like and everything. And he sends it over, and I just pass it through to you. Like, what do you think? 'Cause he's like waiting to do an edit maybe or whatever. And if you're like Chris, you're very particular, which rightfully so. But you're like, hey, 99% great, but the last name totally wrong. I was like, fuck. So I was like, Sam, this is my fault. I should have got the pronunciation. My bad. He's like, you idiot. So I was like, yeah, 2 people call me idiot. It's perfect. So sorry about that, man.
I've dealt with it my whole life, and my wife heard it. She's walking through the house, and I'm playing it. And right now, for SHOT Show, I have the shittiest mustache on earth, and I don't know why. I'm just going there with crappy facial hair. My wife heard that music, and she came in, and she's like, "There's nothing better for what you're doing than that song right now."
Oh, that's
You
cool.
look like an idiot, but it fits. I'm like, great.
Sweetheart, I've got to play the part.
That's perfect. Well, yeah, we'll meet up at SHOT.
Yeah, no,
I'll be floating around there. I'm getting in Tuesday. I think my flight leaves Milwaukee at 6 a.m. So I'll be there Tuesday all day, and then I'm not coming back home until Friday morning. So certainly we'll have to get together. That's where you and I met.
Timer.
Yeah, I'm not there. Like, there's people on the Gunpowder team that are getting there Sunday, not leaving till the following Sunday. I'm like, that sucks.
Yeah, I'm there from Sunday to Sunday. I'm all in. I'm there long enough to get sick and then recover, and then maybe get sick again by the time we leave. So it's an adventure, but there'll be lots of content. There'll be lots of shorts that we're going to post while we're out there. Checking out some of the new stuff, but just telling people who we are. Even spreading the gospel about the rest of the podcast, because I think it resonates with so many people. And, even at SCI or Dallas Safari, telling people, they're like, oh, there's an archery podcast to this? And it's like, yes, there is. And they are equally degenerate as I think everyone else.
Yeah, damn right.
So,
oh, it's great.
So I'm looking forward to it. We'll launch the episode next Monday as SHOT Show gets underway. And then we'll have some follow-on episodes every other week until, we run out of ideas.
There's no shortage of ideas, just time. So if you miss one, you're not going to offend anybody. But the first one you miss is the first time you hear that you have listeners, because they'll go, what the fuck? Where's the episode? And you're like, well, I didn't know anyone was listening. So that's usually a fun realization. You have to miss an episode to learn you have an audience.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, and you and I met at SHOT last year. I think we stumbled into each other in the aisle, and you were like, holy shit, the OKS Hunter guys.
Yeah,
I was like, what's up, dude? I remember.
Yeah, I was like spamming you guys on social media, because I think like one of the first things I like talked about was like I maced myself with dopey, one last season, and that was like kind of the segue story I told you guys. Like, did not read the wind, and then I was like, oh man, I love what you guys are doing. I'm like, you guys, you're my people, I'll say. And I think there's a voice for gun people in that too. So
absolutely,
let's do it.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for calling in. I'm glad that everyone got the message. I didn't anticipate everyone being able to actually do it. So last minute per usual over here. Don't plan anything.
There we go.
Works out okay.
Glad to have you, Jared. Excited for the upcoming show, buddy.
I gotta see this mustache in
I'm
person.
looking forward to it, and no, you don't. Really don't. Oh man, no
don't shave it off now.
No,
don't shave it off now.
No profile pictures right now. Let's wait till after SHOT Show, and I'll be back to normal.
Good, buddy. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. We'll talk soon.
All right, guys. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
And with that, I think we'll call it a wrap. I think that's a fun episode.
It was a nice little
So,
splicing of all the different things you can do with your off season.
Lots of things. You can go shoot, you can go cook, you can go trap, you can go fish, you can go plan your Western hunt. We didn't hear from Levi, sadly.
But yeah, that is a thing that in the spring, you better
go train
be
your
ready
dog.
to apply. And
there's lots to do. Lots to do. Don't tell your wife that you listen to this podcast, because I don't think we need more to do outdoors. One season of something is enough.
Yeah, you didn't get any ideas here.
Just go buy a book or something. All right, I listen to this podcast about this book.